Please turn to page 535 in your prayer book.
Shabbos, everybody. So I want to welcome people who are, coming from a distance, from family planted elsewhere, places I've never been to, places I have been to, and I can hear their accents fluttering above. The wings of Shekhinah. Suddenly I come back to my old, another life. Just a familiarize you with what we do in here. And it's a nice compact group. Every Saturday morning is the time on the Jewish calendar, Jewish rhythm, for us to stop. That's what it means. So Shabbat means to stop. So on Shabbat, we cease, from running around, checking off our list, competing, amassing, scrambling. And we come in and we say to ourselves, okay, who are we? What were we up to? Who were we before all this started? Before the 6 days of creation started was Shabbat. Now some people think Shabbat is at the end of the week, right? Mystically, we say it's the very first principle. We're here first. And then everything unfolds and unrolls. So this is what we do every Shabbat morning. But with a bar mitzvah, okay, I can't tell you that every week we do it in such a grand style, except for when we have a lot of great B'nai Mitzvah. So when Fisher comes up to lead, what he's doing is he's staking out a position in Jewish life, okay? And when he comes up, especially to the Torah, we'll take the Torah out of the ark, and we talk a little bit more about that later on. He's coming up very close to the Torah. He's not only having access to the Torah, but he's claiming it as his own. So the words in Torah take on new meaning with his stamp on it all, and he'll give it to our Torah. He'll say some words of Torah, some very special words to that, as a matter of fact. Now, if you hear yourself singing along with Liz, Liz has that impact on people, and you'll discover yourselves singing and saying to yourself, wait a minute, I don't even know what these words mean, I should stop singing. Don't stop! Sing along, and also when we get to the point where we're talking about the Torah, participate. This isn't a spectator sport, we don't do it that way in here. So we want you to take your place in this communal happening this morning. Just a couple of logistical words. If you have cell phones, shut them off, or they'll be taken away from you. Actually, this is the first time between you and me I've seen Seth without a cell phone. Is that right? Okay, it's possibly right. And if you do want to take pictures, just no flash photography, okay? That would be great. Okay, so let's continue with the service, and now we're going to invite Fisher's grandmother to present a very, very special talmid.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Fisher, with great honor, I present you this talmid. To you from your pops, Stephen Eisenberg, who would have been so proud of you. As we all are here, for all your accomplishments, especially of this day of your bar mitzvah. Today, you have become an incredible young man of great character. You are clearly destined for a great future. Be happy and healthy always. Sei gesund. We all love you dearly.
If you have a talmid, please stand and join me in the talmid blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahitatev b'tzitzit.
We continue on page 141. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkelotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkelotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov You turn in your program to our first handout. It says Morning Blessings. The morning will unfold for us. Life will rise from dust. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 You open up our eyes to see. You have made us free. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 You lift us up when we are down. You share with us your royal crown. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 You guide our steps at every turn. You teach us what we need to learn. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 You give us strength when we are weak. Reminding us of what we seek. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 Beyond imagination. Your presence fills creation. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 You lift the slumber from our eyes. Signal for the sun to rise. We're rising in remembrance. Of your love. Hallelujah. 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 Page 174. And 75. Page 177. Baruch Shema v'haya ha'olam. Baruch Hoseh b'reishit. Baruch Omer v'oseh. Baruch gozer u'mkayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch mishalem sachar tov lireav. Baruch mahavir afel al nevi orav. Baruch la'ad kayam la'netzach. Baruch podeh u'matzil. Page 209. Mizmor shir, le'yom ha'shabbat. Tov le'hodot l'Adonai, u'zamer l'shivcha elyon. Le'hagid ba'boker chasdecha, ve'le'emunatecha ba'lelot. Ale asur, ale navel, ale higayon bechinor. Ale asur, ale navel, ale higayon bechinor. We continue out loud in English or Hebrew as you prefer. For you deeds and actions, this foolish person cannot know. My eyes shall gaze at victory on my enemies, on all who rise against me to do harm. My ears shall hear of their demise. Tzadik hatama yifrach, ke'erez b'valon yiskeh, she'tuli bebeit Adonai, v'chatzrot Eloheinu yavrichu od yenuvu b'seva, deshenim v'rananim yiyu, le'hagid yashar Adonai, tzuri v'lov latavo. Your precepts have retained their truth, and holiness befits your house. Eternal one, forever and a day. Please turn to page 429. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Od Yehalelucha, Od Yehalelucha. Ashrei And we turn back to page 231. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, bekosho. Hallelujah, bekiyahuzo. Hallelujah, bikurotav. Hallelujah, kerohulo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, beteka shofar. Hallelujah, benevel bechinor. Hallelujah, betofu machov. Hallelujah, beminim be'ugav. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, b'tzitzilei shama. Hallelujah, b'tzitzilei truba. Koham shema hateh hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We'll continue with the Kaiser family.
This is an excerpt from the interpretive Nishma by Marge Piercy on page 232. We are given the wind within us, the breath to shape into words that steal time, that touch like hands and pierce like bullets, that waken truth and deceit, sorrow and pity and joy, that waste precious air in complaints, in lies, in floating traps for power on the dirty air, yet holy breath still stretches our lungs to sing. We are given fire to see against the dark, to think, to read, to study how we are to live, to bank in ourselves against defeat and despair that cool and muddy our resolves, that make us forget what we saw we must do. We are given passion to rise like the sun in our minds with the new day and burn the debris of habit and greed and fear. We stand in the midst of the burning world, primed to burn with compassionate love and justice, to turn inward and find holy fire at the core, to turn outward and see the world that is all, of one flesh with us, see under the trash, through the smog, the furry bee in the apple blossom, the trout leaping, the candles our ancestors lit for us.
Fill us as the tide rustles into the reeds in the marsh. Fill us as the rushing water overflows the pitcher. Fill us as light fills a room with its dancing. Let the little quarrels of the bones and the snarling of the lesser appetites and the whining of the ego cease. Let silence still us, so you may show us your shining, and we can, out of that stillness, rise and praise.
Page 241. Shochenad maharom v'kadosh shemo l'chatuv tzadikim Adonai la'isharim la'vatehila b'fi yisharim tidromam u'v'divrei tzadikim tidbarach u'vilshon Hasidim Titkadash, Uvkeret Keroshim Titala, Uvmachalot V'makot Amchalet Yisrael. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ahad Malkeinu. Brachot v'hodahot me'ata ve'ad olam. Baruch atah Adonai, melech gadol b'tishbachot. El ha'hodahot Adonai niflahot. Haboker v'shirei zimra, melech echei ha'olamim. We continue on the next page. Yitgadal v'yitgadal shemei Rabbah, ve'amad yivrach yirtei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechol yom echol, u'chayed v'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'bizman karim, v'hiru. Yehi Shmei Olam Mevorach, Olam Olam Me'amaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitboar, V'yitbomam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithaleh, V'yithalal, Shmei Kedusha, Le'ela Mincho V'chata V'shirata, Tush V'chata V'V'chata, Davira Me'olam, V'meru.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vayed. Blessed are you, Eternal One, our God, the Sovereign of all worlds, who fashions light and creates darkness, Maker of peace and Creator of all.
You may be seated. And we have more from the Kaiser family at this point.
This poem is by Sheila Peltz Weinberg. Every day, creation is renewed. Wake up and see, unfolding in the spreading light of dawn, the world and all it contains coming into being, new, fresh, filled with divine goodness and love. Every day, creation is renewed. Reflected in the great lights, we see a new day, one precious day, eternity.
Page 269. Or Chadash, Al Zion Ta'ir. Or Chadash, Al דברך מאוד. We continue with the song, the other song on your handout, Havurah. Avinu ha'av ha'rachaman ha'merachem rachem aleinu Hinenu ha'em ha'rachmana ha'merachem rachem aleinu Aleinu ha'av ha'rachaman ha'merachem rachem aleinu Hinenu ha'em ha'rachmana Rachem Rachem Aleinu V'ten b'libeinu Lehavinu haskil Lishmoa lilmod lelamed Lishmoa ve'lasot Lishmoa ve'lasot Avinu ha'av ha'rachaman Rachem Rachem Aleinu Ilenu Ha'em Ha'rachmanam Ha'merachem Rachem Aleinu Ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha Ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha Page 277. Selections beginning on page 279 or 282, and we'll meet up again on page 285. Shemantis Geruvas item et mitzvotai, vehitem keroshim lelohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, v'hiyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet. Page 291. Mi chamocha va'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh, shira chadasha shivchu geulim, l'shimcha asafat hayam, yachad kulam hodu, ve'himlichu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Tzur Yisrael, kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, uvdechilu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, go aleinu, Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga Yisrael. We continue together on page 295. We'll read the first three prayers together and then continue silently. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor HaNorah, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Milot,
The Torah service begins on page 383. En kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'in kamasecha malchutecha malchut olamim u'memshaltecha le'odor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai Yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oseh oizeh Adonai yevarech et amu v'shalom ha'olamim etzir v'avet sonecha et Zion Yerushalayim
So this is the Torah which God passed on to Moses, and he handed it on throughout the generations, just like we're going to do right now.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadolul Adonai iti,
Usana
Shabbos, everybody. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Torah reading. So if you turn to page 464 in the Blue Book, we're at Parashat Tetzaveh, and that is in chapter 27 of Exodus, verse 20. So let's see, chapter 27, verse 20 in the Blue Book again, page 464 in the Brown Book. Anybody?
Oh, okay.
What is it? 132. 172 in the Orange Book. Okay. In the Purple Book.
Pages are on the program for the different,
Pages are on the
for
program.
the different, like the purple
Okay.
Bible and the brown Tanakh.
Great. So here we are. Now we're at this particular section now where we're dealing with, accoutrements to the holy place called the Tabernacle in the desert. We come up to the lighting of what's known as the eternal light. I'm going to let Seth talk. I'm going to let Fisher talk all about that. Seth, you don't have to do a thing. Don't worry. Fisher's going to give this unbelievable Dvar Torah, okay? So he's going to open up what the Ner Tamid is about, this special light. But at the end of, the very end of the chapter, just before it turns to 28, it says that Aaron will set it out, Aaron and his children, from the evening until the morning, this light, maybe the candelabrum, this eternal light, we're not sure. And then before God, and it would be Chukat Olam L'Dorotam Me'it B'nai Israel. And we see this phrase many times in Torah. An eternal decree for the generations from the children of Israel. Chukat Olam L'Dorotam. An eternal decree for their generations. Now, we're talking about the everlasting light, but we could be talking about a lot of things. So whenever the Torah says, Chukat Olam L'Dorotam, that's something for the generations, a law for all the generations, what are we to make of it? What do we learn from that phrase? Don't worry, there isn't one standard understanding, okay? I'll take off my necktie and here, and we can relax. But what do you think it means? Chukat Olam L'Dorotam means, again, I'll give you a different understanding of that. It's something very deep that has a rhythm to it, has cosmic impact. It's going to continue. Every generation does it. Okay? In this case, it's going to be lighting the light. That light? I'm not sure. What does it mean that you do it every generation? What do we do? The Jews talk about this all the time.
Well, it's something to pass down. It's something to pass down. It's something that you remember and that has meaning when you know it, and then you pass it down and you offer that meaning to the next generation so that they know it and they pass it down.
Okay. So this is something that Jeff gives to the next generation.
Yeah.
Jeff gives it to Miriam and Benna. And Miriam and Benna learn it. This is where I fish. Come to this pool of water. This pool of water. Cast your rod in this direction. Don't get it snagged in the tree behind you like Rabbi Joey would. So every generation does it exactly like, that's the eternal light. Every generation does it like this. Is there anything else we can learn from this?
I think it's really big and important somehow.
Sorry, I reckon.
It's big and important. If it's every generation, this is not trivial. This is really important.
It's big and important because it's every generation. It's not just now.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good.
It's our responsibility.
It's our responsibility. Okay. So now we're building on this. It's our responsibility. It's not someone else's responsibility. It's not my great-great-grandfather's responsibility. Anything else? Anybody want to give a different spin on
I will.
it? Oh.
I think that, but so many as generations pass, our lives change. And so each new generation has to find a way to make it theirs within the context of what their lives are really like.
Okay, that's very, very important. There's a new context you have to find it in each generation. Okay, well, one of the commentators actually says that, takes us to a section of Talmud, Sanhedrin, page 21b, okay, says, it's interesting, in that particular section of Talmud, they're examining the rules for kings. By the way, Jews were never kings. So it's hypothetical, okay? Until King Bibi, okay? All right? So, but it's hypothetical. So he said kings, according to later on, in the book of Deuteronomy, it actually says this, that the kings, if they're going to be kings, they're going to have to do a few things. One of the things that a king is going to have to do is he's going to have a Sefer Torah on his night table, so to speak. Every king should write a copy of the Torah, okay? And in that particular section of Talmud, it says, kings? No, not just kings. Each one of us should write a Sefer Torah. Did you know it's a mitzvah to write a Sefer Torah? Everybody should write a Sefer Torah. It's going to cost. It's pretty expensive, but everybody should write their own Sefer Torah or have it written for them. It's a mitzvah. It's a command. That's, it's a wonderful thing. Now, then they go into discussing, well, how do you write a Sefer Torah? And they say, like, well, you have to write in this script, and some people wrote the words in this language. So can you imagine that? I mean, the Sefer Torah, the Torah scroll could come in a different script, maybe, and it could come possibly in a different language, Aramaic, in the era in which you spoke Aramaic. So can you imagine what this means? Now, and this is an interpretation of this phrase, Chukat Olam L'Dorot Techa. In other words, this is a law for all the generations. So what's it saying? Where the rabbi's going with that? Karen.
Can it be a metaphor for how you live your life?
It better be. A metaphor for how you live your life. Can we say more?
Yeah, just spreading light in the world.
You're bringing light into the world. Right. Deb, yeah.
Well, just a few sukkim later, they're talking about the Urim and the Tumim, the divining device. And Urim comes from the same root as the word light, or, and so connecting these two, that there is a statute to have an eternal light with you always, that light become a source of clarity and discernment for you, so that it's not merely something you look at or that maybe allows you to function in the dark, but that it actually illuminates your decision making and the actions you take.
Discernment, decision making. So, let's understand then that it's not simply you repeat these words and you repeat the meaning. It's not enough to just simply replicate or imitate. It's not imitation. If it's imitation, not only is it not going to be lasting, but it's not going to be meaningful in an ongoing way. It means that you in order to light a path, what you're doing is I think the key term, as you said, is to be discerning. Discerning. So that you're figuring out, well, where is the Torah? What language is the Torah right now? What language, in other words, what's the context? What am I supposed to do? If Sinai is, I'm walking Sinai. I'm a walking Sinai. And by the way, Sinai was supposed to mean something in our tradition. It's supposed to mean clarity. So I'm supposed to take it into the world and into the context in which I walk. And this is certainly a time in which it's awfully confusing. So it means that we need to bring it into the world. And actually that's going to be really, really important in terms of your Devar Torah, what you're going to say in a little while. That you're walking Torah, right? It's not only to write your own Torah, but it means to carry this thing in a way that you feel like Sinai comes into the world as you see it. You're the eyes. It's really, really significant stuff. Okay, we come now to the first. And we call Beverly Eisenberg and Bethany Eisenberg and Shab Weinstein with this allele. Damona Ari. Let's see. Arriba Lebrachel Israel Simcha Vebuma V'yamom Shlomo ben Meir El Kareza Rishon.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'cha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Be'ata tetzaveh et bnei Yisrael haiku lecha shemen zayizak kativ lamaor lecha lo ner tamid be'ochel moed michutz laposhet asher al ha'edud yaharoch oto aharon u'anah erev haboker lifnei Adonai hukat olam ledoratam b'nei Yisrael be'atah Akreh Lecha Eben Aaron Achicha Be'etnav Ito Mito B'nei Yisrael Lechanoli Aaron Nadav Tamar b'nei Aharon.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chesed l'olam v'tevechaynu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
We call on Kerry Krishna and Mitch Krishna to come on up for the second aliyah. Ta'amod Shabbat, Gordon Melinda, Shvi'amod, Michael and Stan Melinda, Shaggy.
asher kervanu la'avadato, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'asita v'te kodesh la'aharon ahiha lekavod ultiva'aret v'ata tidaber el koach belev asher milativ ruach ha'ma ya'asu ve'asu et b'dei Aharon lekadeshu lehachanu li ve'ele habagadim asher ya'asu hoshen v'efod u'me'il uchtonet tashbetz mitznefet v'havenet ya'asu ve'asu b'dei kodesh la'aharon ahiha ulvanav lechachanu li v'hem yikuhu et hazahav v'et hatchelet v'et ha'argaman v'et tolat hashani v'et hashesh.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chachmei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
I want Amber to say Shechion. Amber has to say Shechion because it's her first time reading Torah. Right? In honor of Fisher. It's nice to have your mom go for the first time and chant the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'ehyanu v'kiyanu v'kiyanu l'zman hazeh. Amen. Wonderful, wonderful. You know, I wanted to point out that there's an interesting thing that happens in the Torah here. It actually says, if you look back to chapter 28, verse 3, we just read, you're going to be speaking to those people, to everybody who is wise of heart. Then it says this phrase, Asher miletiv ruach chachma. So the people who are about to fashion, and do actually not just fashion, who are going to be the craftspeople, the artisans of the priesthood, but the people who actually serve are also, this verb applies where I fill them, where it uses the term miletiv, or lemalei means to fill them up with holiness. Then they're going to have to wear special vestments. Now, I just want to just point out the irony here in terms of our own understanding of clothing, okay? Clothing only becomes an aspect of what's manifested inwardly in human beings, according to this tradition that starts in Torah, in the Bible, but it becomes a part of deeper mystical tradition. So clothing becomes just a manifestation of what's within, not something that's superimposed upon people. So if you wear a certain garment, suddenly you're holy. On the contrary, you gotta, if you're filled up with this special, if you're enthused, literally in the Greek, if theos, if the God is put inside of you, enthused, then you have to wear something outwardly that fits or suits or reflects what's happening in that space. So it's the other way around from the way we might understand fashion today. Although I know from certain family members that there are other theories of fashion today. All right, so okay, let's go to the third Aliyah, and we call on Ruth and Michael to come on up for the third Aliyah. Yamud. Moshe Simcha ben Melech V'Shena V'Rachel Shoshana Bad Moshe Tzipora Shli Baruch Hu et Adonai Havarach. Baruch Adonai Havarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'asuhu et ha'efod zahar techelet v'argaman tolah ad shani v'shesh mashazah ma'aseh choshev sheteh chotefot choverot yelo el shnei kutzotav v'chubar וחשב עפודתו אשר עליו כמעשהו ממנו יהיה זהב תכלת וארגמן וצלעת שני ושש משזר ולקח את שתי אבני שוהם ופיתח את עליהם שמות בני ישראל שישה משמותם על האבן האחת ואת שמות השישה הנותרים על האבן השנית כתולדותם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam atah b'tzolkenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Chapter 28, verse 11. Now, we honor Jeff Gottfried with the fourth Havurah. Yamud Ruven Yosef ben Beryl Dovenya Levi.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamarach. Baruch Adonai Hamarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachor banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Maseh Charash Eben Pituchei Chotam Tefatach et Shtei Alanim Al Shmot Bnei Yisrael Musagot Mishpatzot Zahav Taseh Otam V'samta et Shtei Alanim Al Kifot Haifot Avnei Zikaron Livnei Yisrael V'nasa Aharon et Shmotam Livnei Adonai Al Shtei Cheteifav L'Zikaron V'asita Mishpatzot Zahav U'shtei Shasharot Zahav Tahor Mifalot Taseh Otam Aseh Avot V'natata Et Shasharot Havot Tod, Ala Mishbetzot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chavanu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
So I just want to point out that not only is it really wonderful that Alan comes up here and chants Torah 2 weeks after, I think it's 2 weeks, isn't it? Yeah. After his own daughter's bat mitzvah. But Alan also had a pie thrown at him a year ago by the bar mitzvah in Bergspiel. So it's really, really nice. It's a sign of chesed. I'm going to call Oren Kozansky for the 5th Aliyah. And we want to thank Oren for leading a great discussion the other night. We had this wonderful discussion on Nathan Englander's book, what's the name of it? That's the title. I can never remember what the title is. The Ministry of Special Cases, right? We had this terribly interesting discussion that I think bears on a couple of things we were just talking about in terms of trying to carry on a tradition, certainly. And it plays on the motif of Argentina and the disappeared ones during the Dirty Wars era. And it's a fascinating discussion. And Oren led the discussion, so it's really meaningful. What? Right, Oren points out that you should go and see the show. Ministry of Special Cases, put on by Jewish Theater Collaborative, and Sasha Reich and company during this next month. I mean, it's going to be, now we're all enthralled to go and see it. It should be really special. Yeah, okay, right.
Oren Ben-Zvi and
Okay. Yamor Oren Ben-Zvi and Melissa Hamishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. ועשית חושן משפט מעשה חושב כמעשה אפוד תעשינו זהב תכלת בארגמן ותולעת שני ושש משזר תעשה אותו רבוע יהיה כפול זרת ארכו וזרת רחבו ומילתו מילואת אבן ארבעה טורים אבן טור אודם פיתה וברקת הטור האחד והטור השני נופך ספיר ויחלום והטור השלישי לשם שבו והחלמה והטור הרביעי תרשיש ושוהם וישפה משובצים זהב יהיו במילואותם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
It's our tradition to offer a prayer for healing while the Torah is out, and we like to say names out loud of loved ones, people we know who are in need of our caring, our reaching out, and healing bracha. Are their names?
Judy Wilson, Eva Quitman, Shirley Kellis, Bob Lusberg, Anna Workman, Dorothy and Paula Rosenthal, Sandy Sears, Zachary Gartenberg, Susan Newman, Joyce Singer, Leona Clara, Terry Nielsen, Shoshana Shodney, Ann Marks, Merritt Chafee, Jake Alton Steinberg.
Ben Feldman. Penny Godfrey. Selena Melton.
Yishberach Avotenu V'Imotenu Avraham, Sarah, Yitzchak, Rivka, Yaakov, Rachel, Leah, Moshe, Miriam, Aaron, Hannah, David, Ushlomo, Tuivarech, Vrapet Acholim, Bavor Shnatno, Tzedakah Bavram, Pischa Zekaresh Bruchu, Imale Rachamim Lehem, Lachlimam Larbotam, Lachzikam Achiotam, Yishlach Lehem Meraf, Washlemam Neshamahem, Ramat Erem, Shasagidem, Toshach Ol Israel, Fuad Nefesh, Fuad Shabbat Hilim in Israel, Lavo, Hashta Bagava Bisman Kariv, Venomar, Amen. We honor for the sixth Aliyah, Amber and Seth. Yom Tov, Imba, Ben, John, Marilyn, Chaim, Ben, Yisrael, Simcha, Avuma, Shishi.
Baruch Adonai Havurah,
Baruch Adonai Havurah Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havurah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirvanu le'avodato v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'ha'avanim tehiyena al shemo b'nei Israel, shetem esrei al shemotam, v'tuchei chotam ish al shemo tehiyena lishnei asar shavet, ve'asita al hachoshen Sharshot Kavlut Maaseh Avot Zahav Tahor Ve'asita Al HaChoshen Shatei Tabaot Zahav Ve'natata Et Shatei Tabaot Al Shatei Kitzot Al Shanei Kitzot HaChoshen Venatata et shetei havotot zahav al shetei hatabaot chitzot hachoshen va'et shetei chitzot shetei hatabaot ha'avotot titen al shetei hamishbetzot venatata El kifot ha'efod el mul panav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yahamad, Yahamad, Bachura bar mitzvah, Yitzchak Simcha, Ben Chaim Bimba, Shvi.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Havurah.
Baruch Adonai Havurah Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havurah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirvanu la'avodato, v'natan lanu et torato, baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Vasita shetei zahav, samita otam, ashetei shenei kitfa, ha pizza, ha koshen, al sefato, asher elever, haifot bayata, vasita shetei zahav, v'natata otam, ashetei kitfa, haifot, mirmata mimu panav, Leumat machabarto mimal lachishem haifot, virkasu et achushen mitavatachav, el tavor haifot bifatil tachelet, leumat machabio alchishem haifot, velo izak hakoshen me'al haifot, vanasa aharon, et Shemot b'nei Yisrael, belchu hoshen hamishpat, alibo, v'vo'o, el hakodesh, lezikaron, lifnei Adonai tamid, v'natata al choshen hamishpat, et harim, v'yet hajimim, v'hayu alev Aaron, v'vo'o, Lifnei Adonai, v'nasa Aharon, et mishpat b'nei Yisrael alibo, Lifnei Adonai tamid. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
So we want to ask Amber and Seth to say a special bracha at this moment to release some of the anxiety, the worry for years of raising this kid. Watching him just glow and come into his own is a wonderful marker right now. Baruch Sheptarenu Me'ocho Shel Amen. Shemen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, shemen tov, shemen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, shemen tov, shemen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, shemen tov. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ole Kol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ole Kol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ole Kol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ole Kol Yisrael. Mazel tov. Just wait with me for 1 second. I had to bring the other Torah over. I'll explain why in a second. Yekata vikata shemei rabon, v'divrach tegam lik malchutei, melechai chono b'yahomei chon kufayet kol beit Yisrael, bahagala ubismahakari ve'meruah, yehesh merava mevorach, v'yalaya ve'hamaya, Yipara vishtava v'pa'arit malinaseh, v'yitadar mitaleh shmei kudshav, lev hamikol b'chata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ha'mihiram be'alma ve'meruah. We call up the Hagba and the Glila for the first Sefer Torah. Aha, okay. Yamot, label them. Nachum Rachel, Hamavia, Via Amot. Ruben Yosef, no, you. And Beryl Dov Behenya, Hagolem, Vezo, HaTorah, Asher Sam Moshe, V'nei Israel, V'Adonai, V'Yad Moshe. Eitzvah Hiva, Machazik Hiva, V'Tom Tehamid Ushar. Eitzvah Hiva, Machazik Hiva, V'Tom Tehamid Ushar. Raheha Davinoam, Behon Netivotecha Shalom. Raheha Davinoam, Behon Netivotecha Shalom. Maybe see, now I'll explain. So we take out another Torah. Another Torah. Here we're talking about passing, there are two Torahs, and the reason is that the second Torah, we read a special reading. There are 4 special Shabbatot prior to Pesach, Passover. And one of them comes just the week prior to Purim, which is also prior to Passover. Okay, so this week is Purim, and so we read what's called Zachor. Now, here we're talking about the garments that the priest puts on, the priestly garments. And here we come up to the holiday where we put on garments to mask who we are. So it's a really, really interesting thing. And it's actually in the middle of the story, I think the turning point of the Megillah, the story of Purim, story of Esther, where it says, Vatilbash Esther Malchut. Esther puts on Malchus, sovereignty, Shechina. She recognizes that she has this inner radiance. That until that point in the story, if you know the story of Esther, the bell hasn't dinged until that point. It's at a certain point in time when we recognize our own power. We recognize that we're filled from within. Sometimes we have to trip the switch. Sometimes, in a theatrical sense, we have to find ourselves playing different roles, listening carefully, stepping outside of our own shoes, putting on a masquerade, as it were, to figure out who we are on the inside, okay? So it's this week that we celebrate Purim. We read from this section in Deuteronomy called Zachor. We remember, strangely enough, this ancient tribal attack. The Amalekites attacked the Israelites as they're coming forth from Egypt. We're supposed to remember them as if they are the antecedent, the ancient ancestors of Haman the bad guy in the story of Esther. And we're supposed to do 2 contradictory things. We're supposed to remember them, and we're supposed to blot out their memory. It almost sounds like Mel Brooks talking to the Israelites, or someone saying to his kid who hasn't thought this through pedagogically, "You better remember this stuff. Yeah. And I'm telling you, don't you forget, and you better blot out all that memory." Sometimes we have to figure out, in order to go on and to recognize the sparkle, the brightness, and the capacity to see where we are in our context. We have to shed something that's been holding us up. Maybe it's an ancient memory. Now, so we're supposed to, as Jews, we're supposed to remember the past, but sometimes we're going to have to trip a switch to let something go a little bit, put it aside, to recognize that indeed we can embrace the contemporary context. That's what happens in the story of Esther. And I think that's what's going to happen if we are hopeful enough in the life of a bar mitzvah that he can embrace this context, see what it means to come into a world that us old folks can't even imagine, but he can take on fully and become empowered to be a leader. That's really what it's all about. Okay, so we're going to read from Zachor. It's over in Heartbeat. Do you happen to know what the verses are?
Zachor is at
No, the chapter and verse. Right?
right here.
It's in Kititze.
Yeah, 25, 17 to 20.
Chapter 25.
17, 18, and 19.
17, 18, and 19 of Deuteronomy.
That's it.
Okay. Who is going to, let's see. We're going to invite up. Okay, for the to read. Okay. Now we're going to invite up, I think, the Shabbat school families. Is that right? For the Aliyah? Right. Okay. Yamdu Glele Haurim Shel Hakita Shebalamda Mamad Habar Mitzvah Maftir. Wait a minute. Everybody has to stand now.
That's right.
We have a Torah here, so
That's right.
it's a Torah in the house. All right, go ahead.
זכור את אשר עשה לך המלך בדרך בצאתם מצרים אשר קרחה בדרך וזנה בך כל הנחשלים אחריך ואתה ויגעגעך ולא ירא אלוהים והיה בדרך בניה אדוני אלוהיך לך וכל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך ונותן יציקול לך נחלה לרשתה תמחת עזך ממלא מתחת השמיים לא תשכח
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת בחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Another rookie Torah reader, Shechianu. You have to say Shechianu, right? Baruch. Okay, we have a Hagba and a Galila for the second Sefer Torah. Who's the Hagba? Okay, now this is going to be a feat. If Alan can pick this up, this is a very heavy Torah, and you're left-handed. That's great. Because, as you can see, it's at the very end, and I don't wish this upon anybody. everybody else. Okay. And so Yamud Avram ben Eliyahu B'Sora Mavian Tamud Elisha bar Abraham B'Sora Hagol Blalet V'Zot HaTorah Asher Samoseh L'Bnei Yisrael Mi'Adonai V'Yad Moshe Eitz Hayim L'Machazikima V'Eton V'Hamirusha Eitz Hayim L'Machazikima V'Eton V'Hamirusha You may be seated.
When I first found out what my Torah portion was, I thought, dang, this is boring. This portion is mainly just a bunch of specific directions given to Moses by Adonai about how to dress the priests. There's a special breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a tunic, a turban, a sash, and these things have to be made under certain conditions and with certain materials. Studying this portion seemed like a total waste of time. We Jews don't even use priests anymore. There's only one thing described in this whole portion that we still do today, and that is the light, the Ner Tamid. Here in our synagogue and in every synagogue around the world, there is a light that burns continually over the Ark of the Torah. We call it the Ner Tamid. In Hebrew, Ner means light, and Tamid means regularly or repeatedly. We will come back to this later. The first line of my Torah portion says, "You shall further instruct the Israelites to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling lamps regularly." This is what I decided to explore with Rabbi Joey. We talked about a riddle posed by an old dead rabbi. The riddle is, there's a man walking. He sees a palace and it is ablaze, and he says, "Is it possible that the master is not at home?" What would you think if you were that man? What do you feel when you see fire? If it's a campfire, I feel warm and safe, mesmerized by the flames. If it's a forest fire, it feels dangerous. So what kind of fire was in the palace? Rabbi Joey told me that the Hebrew could be all lit up or ablaze. One would be safe, warm and comforting. The other would be scary and dangerous. This relates to Adonai. Fire represents God. I know this because he appeared to Moses as a burning bush. But the bush wasn't really burning. It was all lit up, just like the palace in the riddle. For the ancient Israelites, fire was protection and safety, but it was also dangerous. And so was Adonai. Their experience of Adonai was full of fear and awe. So back to the palace. The man said, "Is it possible that the master is not at home?" What does that mean? Does it mean that Adonai has let the palace burn? Or is he counting on someone else to keep the palace illuminated? One thing we know for certain is that you have to pay attention to fire. Rabbi Joey and I talked about how easy it is to be wrapped up in our activities and our phones and all these distractions. Then you don't take the time to notice both the marvelous, beautiful things in our world, as well as the things that aren't so good, the things that require our attention. When we really pay attention, we'll notice things in the world that we need to help fix. We have a revelation about our responsibility in the world. I want to give you an example of this. You know how my family loves camping. It's one of our favorite activities. I love camping. Well, when I was 5, I was walking on the sidewalk downtown with my mother. And we passed some homeless people sleeping on the side of the road. And I said, "Mom, why are they camping there? That is such a bad campsite." After we were home, my mom told me that those people weren't camping for fun. They were homeless. That made me very sad. And from that point on, I really tried to pay attention to the problem of homelessness, and I've tried to help. So we've talked about fire and awe, as well as paying attention. But there are plenty of other ideas about the Ner Tamid. Other rabbis in the Midrash asked a different riddle. Why does God ask us to light the Ner Tamid if he already made light when he was first creating the world? In the creation story, the first thing God makes is light. When the Israelites were in the desert, they kept the Ten Commandments in the ark, which was in the tent of meeting. The Ner Tamid was lit before the tent of meeting every night and lasted until morning. The light was a reminder of God's presence among the people. Jews today remind ourselves that God is in our presence by lighting candles on Shabbat and on the anniversary of a loved one's death and on all holidays. But why would we need to light a light if Adonai already created light when he was first creating the world? And what does this have to do with the palace ablaze? Remember in that riddle, the man asked, is it possible that the master is not at home? I believe that we have to be the light. The Ner Tamid is a cue for us to be a good person and to be part of God. If God has made this great world, then we have to continue it by being a good person and being part of God, Adonai. We have the presence of God with us. When someone does a good deed, you can think, oh hey, Adonai, there's a part of God in that person. When you do a good deed, it shows that you are part of Adonai as well. The light is like a reminder to yourself so that you can be a good person and also a reminder to pay attention to the things around you. Remember how I told you that the Ner Tamid means light and regularly? Lots of people think the Ner Tamid means eternal light. We never turn the light off over the ark. But the light represents good deeds and being a good person and being the light you want to see in the world. You can't do that constantly or eternally, but you can do it repeatedly. Jews believe that God needs help to make a great world, and that is what I do that is what I plan to do as I grow through my life. Thank you.
There are so many things to love about you. I love the way you work hard for things that really matter. Sharing this year of study with you has been really incredible for me, and I've loved every minute of it. I'm so proud of you. I really love your skill and confidence in the wilderness. I know I could drop you in Algonquin with a map and a canoe and some fishing gear, and you'd be fine. You'd be more than fine. I'd be really happy. Our adventures are the best part of my life. Thanks for always wanting to go with me. I love the way you pay attention to people, to what they say and what they don't say, and you have this gift for figuring out what it is that people need to feel safe and loved and accepted. It's your superpower. And I want to tell you one other thing. You know, there's this question that you often ask me late at night, or maybe you're feeling a little anxious. I know you know what the question is. You know what my answer is. But I'm going to tell you today, in front of all these people, so you will believe me. Okay? Shackleton, Fisher, Eisenberg, you are doing great.
Amber's a tough act to follow. She did remind me that after looking at my notes that I was going to be far too much of a windbag, so I an abbreviated version of the parents' blessing. And I also wanted to note that we're the Jewish family sort of, forging back into the wilderness after all these years. Fisher, parents' blessings, a funny thing to write, as all of us in this room, and I look out on all those people who have had a very significant piece in your life. It's a funny thing as we travel along this incredible journey with you. This year in particular has been one of amazing growth, and watching you, mature and establish this really clear link between hard work and achievement, and all these things in your studies, in the preparation for your bar mitzvah, in your soccer, in all of the independent things that you do with us as a family. I'm really grateful for the person that you are and that you're growing into. You're caring, deliberate, active, funny, bright, inquisitive. And I love to watch you and your sister with our extended family, and also especially with this group of incredible friends that are here with you today that you've cultivated. You're such a good young man, and I'm really, really proud that you're my son. So, you know, with all of this, and then seeing how you carried out your service project for the Children's Book Bank, and you know, you started out with this goal of collecting 500 books, and you actually collected 1,200 for disadvantaged kids. And I feel very, very confident in the path you're on as a person. I want you to know that you'll always have the support and love of our family, me, this congregation, and this amazing group of people all around you. So, yeah, I'm so proud of you today and always. I love you. So sweet.
Fisher, we are so grateful, your Papa and Emmy, that you are our eldest grandson and that you are such an important person in our family and in our lives. What adventures we've shared. Canoeing and camping. Yeah, we usually find better campsites than what those people did downtown, and I think that was a great story that caught your attention. And we've gone fishing and rafting and birding and skiing and golfing and ziplining and exploring faraway places. And what fun it has been to play so many different games with you, watch you play baseball and soccer, perform in school plays, and talk about books, movies, and the wonders of the world. We adore your curiosity about so many different things. You are so special to everyone in this family. You bring so much positive energy and enthusiasm and good humor into our lives. You are a leader with our 4 other grandkids and members of the extended family. You play with them, watch out for them, and give them your love. And for us and your parents and others in the family and in this room, your lovability brought us back from the despair of losing your older sister, Esther Rose. We admire your empathy for others and your actions to make this a better world. We congratulate you on your spiritual journey, of which this bar mitzvah is such an important milestone, and on your adventure of growing and learning and becoming. It is unique to you. We hope your path will continue to be characterized by your brand, your own brand, your unique brand of excitement and joy. Dear grandson, your Emmy and Papa most profoundly thank you for your love and joy, and the love and joy you have brought into our lives, because really, you have made us better and happier people.
Now comes the easy part to get this down. I do.
Not yet.
So I'm here to give you this Tanakh, very nicely wrapped with cards. I had no idea. And it includes the words of the Torah and of our prophets and other important writing. And that's going to happen in 2 minutes and 12 seconds. I promise. So I've got some things to say, and seriously, your job is to either stand here, relax and close your eyes, or sit down and close your eyes. You have a choice.
Stand. Yeah, I feel like stronger.
Who's going to stand, ladies and gentlemen? So, I want you to close your eyes now, and I want you to think about how this congregation shares challah at the end of most Shabbat services. So, someone holds the loaf of bread, and then someone touches the person who's holding the loaf of bread, and then someone touches the person who touches the person who's holding the loaf of bread, and so on and so on. So we're all linked together. And in that way, the blessing for the challah flows from all of us and then back to us all again. So, you can close your eyes, it's okay. Now I want you to imagine something else. I want you to imagine that everyone in this room is touching someone who is touching someone who is touching me, who is holding these words of the Tanakh, just like the challah. That kind of sustenance. But then I want you to imagine that for each person here, there is another person, a beloved soul, whose touching link is felt not on the shoulder, but in the heart. And imagine that fanning out from those beloved souls, linked and touching our generations and generations, going back to when the words that I hold first took shape and meaning, back to when we humans first discovered love and awe. So you got that?
Got it.
Okay. Now, my dear Fisher, imagine that all of us, offer you this gift that I have the honor to physically pass along to you with my delight. And now here are the last 4 sentences. May this Tanakh inspire you. May the words of this Tanakh sometimes annoy you. May they always nourish you. And let us all say, Amen.
Now I can sit down.
Now it's really impossible. This is an impossible thing to follow Ruth, okay? May you always light up a path. May your eyes, which are radiant, may they light up a path for many wherever you go. Yes, may you carry these words deeply inside of you. May you be clothed with righteousness and love and joy the way you are today. And I'd like to ask parents and your grandparents to stand and to say Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu la'azman hazeh. The source, cosmic majesty, who has brought us to this moment, given us life and sustenance so we could be here to share and support the day. Amen. Okay, so we open the books, we stand as the Torah is put back in the ark, page 433.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki niskav Shemo levado, Kodo Ha'eretz V'shamayim
standing on page 445 for Elena.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateitu l'aliotzer bereshit, shenatan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam, natan b'tocheinu, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malachei hamakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'ne'emar, v'chaya Adonai, v'ne'echot ba'aretz, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo
You may be seated. This week we commemorate the artsides of Harriet Zuckerman, Frederick McDowell, Anton Hammond, Ann G. Boyce, Molly Tynowitz, Nell Perlman, Edward Landau, Marion Moriarty, Leo Brewer, and Murray Slive. Of course, we are also mindful of Seth's father. May his memory be a blessing. We know that when we celebrate a simcha, we also celebrate the people who can't be with us, but we think of them and they light a path into this world. Also want to mention the name of Leonard Nimoy. I say that with great affection, not only because, of course, we loved the show that he starred in, but also because, he was very much part of the Jewish world. And a number of friends who got to read theatrical readings with him, and he, of course, was the host of a great series on NPR about 20 years ago, when they were reading the short stories of great Yiddish writers and American Jewish writers. He was very, very active in the Jewish community, and we think he came from Chelsea, but we're not sure. We have an ongoing argument, and we're glad to expand on that argument after the Kiddush, and we'll do it with Boston accents as well.
I will say that Leonard Nimoy, and I know this for a fact,
yes,
he was very instrumental in keeping up with the first synagogue in Beacon Hill.
On Beacon Hill. So
yes.
The Vilna Shul. We talk about the Vilna Shul from
exactly.
the West End Jews.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are there any other names to be mentioned before we say Kaddish? Mourner's Kaddish is on page 451. We'll only stand if you're a mourner. That's the tradition. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Elmat Yivrach, Yirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon, U'vyamechon, U'chayei, D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'galah, U'vizman Kariv, V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Ne'olam Li'omei Hamayah. Yiparach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudsha, V'hu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nehemata, Dami Ran Bialma Yimru Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru. Oseh Shalom B'Mama. Huya Oseh Shalom. Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Yimru. Amen.
I'm really grateful to my family for supporting me so much this year. To Michelle for great tutoring and advice. To Liz for the beautiful music. And to Rabbi Joy for the great conversations about Torah. And to all of you for being part of my special day today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov to Fisher, Mazel Tov to Seth and Amber, and especially to Beryl. Without whom this whole simcha could not have happened. All of the family, okay? A couple of quick announcements. Of course, we got Purim, 6:15 Wednesday night. It's more focused to kids this year, okay? But adults absolutely must come, and you must wear costumes. You can't come in looking the way you normally do. That would be, unfortunate. So it's 6:15 to 7:45 with potluck plate-free. I don't know what plate-free. Oh, got it. Potluck plate-free desserts. And also on Friday night, March 6th at 8, David Fuchs will be leading together with Beth Hammond, Prayer, Stories, Mirth, and Wistfulness. And anybody who's ever heard David let loose, you know that he's not the serious guy he is during the rest of the week. He's an uproarious kind of comic, and this is where he lets it hang out at Havurah. So that's next Friday night. We have a Luna's Minion on Saturday next week, together with Deborah and myself. And then don't forget the big Kabbalat Shabbat service, okay, where we pull in lots and lots of people let's see, so it's the 13th, and we're going to be celebrating Karen Lebinger's birthday. She's turning 40. She has already turned 40 a couple of weeks ago. And so it's going to be we really want to celebrate with Karen on the 13th. So please come. If you can't come to dinner, come right after dinner, come to the service, which starts at 7:30. Are there other announcements? Get tickets for the Jewish Theater Collaborative's presentation of the Nathan Englander book that we discussed the other night. Don't forget that. Okay, it'll be Kiddush following the service. And
we're going to close with a song that is the name of our prayer book, Kol HaNeshama, which means let every creature, let every living being on earth with life and breath praise God. Oh.